Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I'm on chess.com and I just got paired up playing a 5-0 game. Okay. White is already starting off with a pretty modest setup, so I can get away with just quickly getting out my light square bishop. And I think I will make another bishop move and not even allow some type of minor piece imbalance. I have to be on the lookout for e4. This is a way to justify or put to use these moves that I've given White against my bishop. F3 E4. So with that said, let me look to strike at D4. This is not yet a move. Let's immediately put pressure on the center, maybe even the diagonal with Queen to B6. I can also try for Bishop D6 in a push. Let's try for that. E4 is still not working. There is some idea with maybe Queen F3 hitting at F7 and B7. Now they're prepping E4. Let's go here. On Queen G3, I'll be preparing to go queenside. This is a pin. Queen G3. Okay, they're not going for that. But I was prepared to give up my G pawn. So this is just fine for me now. No issues. And White is allowing me to give them an isolated pawn. I like it. Let's do this. Maybe knight here. My bishop is unprotected. Yeah, I guess that's what they're thinking of, but still. Even position, I would say. Bishop G5 is maybe a move. Okay, knight to D2 it is. I could just castle, though. Or what about Queen to D3? Yeah, that seems pretty active. Let's do Queen D3. Doesn't allow a piece to recapture here. Knight takes, queen takes, falls for mate. Okay, so now you gotta take with the pawn. And where exactly to castle? Probably kingside. And defend F7. Anything better? I don't see it. So I could look to just play against this guy here. He can't find such a safe square. Maybe rook F3. Challenging my bishop. Okay. Let's go here. I'm going with this rook because of what? I see F7 as being sensitive. Rook D1 here. Okay. Let's stay active with my queen, keeping pressure on the pawn, on A2 and also D4. I guess there's B3, but queen here. How are we doing on the clock? Down just a tad. Both of us still need a flight square. Soon to be a position where it's just major pieces alone. Let's get here right away. Just looking to poke at the E4 pawn. This is the only thing I could play for, is against the structure. So flight square wise, I'm leaning towards H6. As soon as the bishops are off, however, maybe G6 is better. Dark square. And right now, they are in a pin. I could take advantage of this. And I will be winning a pawn. Probably just take. Rook here, maybe rook F7. No. They want rook here, I guess. That's not something that scares me, though. Let's defend my 7th, and also prepare to get here once more with rook to E7. Maybe this was better, actually, so I could swing my rook over to the 6th rank and have him be an attacker, maybe against H2. Yeah. Yeah, I have to reorganize. Queen... Oh, you know what I could do? I could go queen here. Yeah, let's... Hang on here. Rook takes pawn, takes with check. No, I'm not going to be there to queen. So, okay, I guess I have to do this. Staying on this square. I think this is the flight square white would want. G3 exposes the king to another diagonal. So both of us really ideally like the H-pawn moves for flight squares. I'm looking to just consolidate my structure with B6. What is that move about? I have rook down to F1. They just had a serious brain cramp, I'm assuming. Queen takes pawn, rook to F1. Yeah. But really the opening was, something was off there with the opening, clearly. Got simplified quite a bit, as you saw, major piece ending alone. Let's go into the analysis. I think they were too quick with, I don't know, the earlier moves and trying to get an E4. If E4 wasn't in at the right moment, then black is at least equal. At least comfortable. I mean, as you saw, I had something to play against, and that's all it was. It was playing against a structure. So, yeah. As mentioned, it's a modest approach by white in the opening, so allows me to do this. If C4 is played, you know, this, you know, going with, excuse me, if C4 is played here, this idea to get the bishop outside the pawn chain is a little bit more tricky to get in. I mean, we're not in this exact position, but let me put it like this. State it like this. If at this point, instead of the bishop d3 move, if c4, bringing the bishop out early like this is always a bit questionable because of the reply queen b7. However, in the game, I get to play this and there is no counter strike, let's say, meeting the threat against the queen with queen to b3. So I like going for this just to get the bishop outside the pawn chain. I make several bishop moves, but I'm trading off my bad bishop for their good bishop. And this is the only thing I have to be on the lookout for. Can they say, you know, this tempo against my bishop with f3 is something they could put to use by expanding in the center? That remains to be seen. Maybe instead of c3, they could have really tried to force through this advance. With queen e2 right now? Maybe queen e2 at this moment. And if I go c5, c3, bishop here, now this is maybe a better approach for white basically to get in e4. But because of c3 and this king move, which was just kind of a, I don't know. I think this is the move that really makes things difficult for white, because they're not able to get in e4 in a timely way. You know, once it did hit, I wasn't afraid of it because at that point I could saddle white with an isolated pawn. But queen here instead. Now, if I'm doing this, I have to be afraid of getting forked one day. e5. And, yeah, it's a much different story now. But they just instinctually pulled the king off of this diagonal. But I think they could look forward to getting an e4 right now instead of the king move. Because of it, I'm able to get in my own e5 pawn break first. And now when this move hits, they're going to end up with an isolated pawn like we saw in the game. Notice if I was not playing e5 at this moment here and just going with castles, then what am I doing now? You know, I'm not able to saddle white with an isolated pawn in this case. I could take, recapture, I'm just helping white by doing that. I could take again, but now I'm having to work around these two guys. Much different story. I have to maybe play e5, and then there's maybe a connected passed pawn. So I have to be timely, playing e5, and as mentioned, on this move I was prepared to sack a pawn, and I think that there would certainly be compensation here. I'm fully developed, white is behind, and I have a file to play with here on the g file, right towards the king, and a very nice center. So I thought that this may be a possibility, because for the moment my bishop on d6 is unprotected, this stuff. But as it was played out, I just didn't mean to go all the way back. Many times I would do this, just to allow the knight for bishop exchange, but I don't know. I just wanted to trade good for bad bishop. This is also probably quite reasonable. You know, I still have a bishop that fits in well with my structure. Bishop on dark, pawns on light. But, yeah. Made a lot of bishop moves. 1, 2, 3, 4. But, yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. We'll have a look at it with Stockfish. Sort it out, but, you know, definitely take black in this type of position any day. It's black's the one who's playing against the structure, and they have to do awkward stuff already to defend the pawn, and I guess I'm winning it. You know, he is hit twice. How to defend him? I don't know. They're in a pin, and maybe I could have done something better instead of rook to f7. Maybe rook to f6, looking for these ideas. But this is just a solid approach. Rook f7, defending the back rank. And, well, I'm up a pawn. And they just ended up blundering here. Queen takes rook. If play followed, they are mated. Okay, well, let's just double check things with Stockfish and see at that early moment where there are some improvements. Okay, Stockfish, let's see about this early stage of the game. Any issues with how it was played? Top recommendation is not to take the bishop, but many perfectly reasonable moves at this point. Little shift at all in this game. Knight b to d7 is fine, as well as bishop to e7. I get Nc5. Yeah. And this is just a nothing position. However, now there is, I mean, it is a minor shift, but there is some shift. This, white gives something up by making this prophylactic type move. I don't think this is a position where that prophylactic safety type move is, it's not a good moment for that. There needs to be a better build-up, more development needs to be on board for white before they opt for king to h1. So, computer's suggesting knight to d2. I was pointing out queen to e2. Similar idea in mind with supporting the e4 advance, knight to d2. Because of king h1, there is now a little something now for black. Bishop e7 suggested. Bishop d6 is fine as well. Queen there, and it's not recommending e5. Let's see if e5 is okay. e5 is okay. D takes, knight takes, knight takes, bishop takes. Yep. It's just maybe a little something here for black. e4 takes, and bishop g5. I thought that that might be a move. Yeah. Queen d3 it likes in reply to the knight move. But let's consider the bishop g5 move, because if white ends up with an isolated pawn, it's black who's definitely the better side in playing for something. So bishop g5 undermines the support on e4, castles, knight d2. So just getting the bishop out before the knight, and still taking advantage of this little pin against my unprotected bishop. There is no pawn takes, queen takes bishop. So this was, I guess, a better way for white to develop at this stage. Bishop out first and then knight to d2. As soon as here, it's white who has the isolated pawn. And yeah, I end up picking up the pawn. It's as simple as that. So it's really just the middle game decision that allowed black to create a target within white's structure and then pinpoint it. It's an even-ish evaluation, but you'll find that any player really would prefer black here. This isn't some positive in the white position to have this pawn around. Wants to go with rook to f5 here. It's tough to play as white. Both of us still need to work on our back rank issue, needing a flight square. But the issue for white is pointed at this guy here. f5 is picking up the pawn. And yeah, they just blundered here in the end with rook takes pawn. Not much more to really say. It's a quiet game to start, and it's again the early point regarding the structure. White had the isolated pawn, and I had something to bite at as a result. Okay, well, as usual, feel free to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. And as always, I hope you got something out of it. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.